Hi folks, welcome to the A Minute to Midnight Show. This is Tony coming to you from New Zealand. About a week ago, I had John Haller on the show and we said we'd come back and do another one because it was a very interesting discussion and there's more to talk about. So we're back for a second discussion to follow on from last week. So welcome, John.
Good to be back with you, Tony.
Yeah, and I think this will be interesting too. Actually, folks, with looking at the subjects that we're going to be covering, this is going to be a video in two halves, or an audio will be complete for people that listen on the audio. I know there's a lot of people that just listen to our iTunes or Apple Podcasts audio only, so that won't affect you. But if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to cut somewhere in the middle because some of the topics we're going to cover will be not censorship friendly, so you'll want to go to our website, aminutetomidnight.com, or Rumble or BitChute, or our Apple Podcast channel to get the complete video. So the first bit, though, should be YouTube friendly. So, John, welcome, and I'll let you jump into it.
Good to be back. Well, I think one of the things, last week we talked about a pretty heavy topic about artificial intelligence and that type of thing, and this is... Everywhere I look, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, and I was just reading an article. I haven't had time to research it, but that just to follow up on that a little bit, right now we have this 5G for cell phone and technology and that type of thing. But last year at Davos, and I'm bringing up Davos because the Davos meeting starts in a week from today, in Davos, World Economic Forum, and one of the guys was there. I think it was the head of Motorola. One of the cell phone companies, and he said 6G is coming. And when 6G comes, you're not even going to need a phone. We're going to use your body. And I've been reading some more research on that. Samsung has come out with a big publication on 6G. And so your body's essentially going to be like the conductor and the antenna for transferring information. Now, I don't know where they store the information, but they got everybody to use the phone. And now everybody's used the phone, and nobody, go without your phone for a while, and you do feel like part of you has been cut off. And I was reading some stats too that cell phone usage is like 80% around the world. And I was talking to somebody from a pretty poor country in Africa, a pastor, and he said everybody has a cell phone. Nobody has a landline because it's too expensive to string the wires up, but they can put up cell phone towers and cover a big portion of the country. So this technology is coming. I think what I need to do sometime is sort of start scoring things on a prophecy scale, like where are we on the beast technology, the beast system technology? And I would say, just sort of conservatively, on something like that, I would estimate we're at about, on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being very close, or, there, I think we're at like 93, 94 on the B system technology. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like in 4 or 5 years as these computers improve. So one of the things that's coming up next week is Davos, and I know that at Davos they're going to be pushing the climate change agenda, ESG, climate change, what is sustainable development goals, all the things that have seemed to converge where everybody's talking about it, even though the data keeps coming out and showing, hey, it's not that bad out there. For example, everybody's happy now. Europe's having one of their mildest winters ever. But a lot of places are having, it's just kind of strange weather. We were up near 70 degrees last week here in Ohio in early January. It's, but California, which has been dry for a few years now, they're having record rains in large portions of the state. So I'm sure that this climate change thing is going to be another big deal at the Davos meeting.
Yeah, look, at the moment here in New Zealand, we're due to have a cyclone coming in this afternoon, which is what they call hurricanes here, basically. and we've had a lot of rain. It's supposedly summer here. So far it's been very wet. It's not really hot at the moment where I am anyway. It's been not really like you expect out of a summer. And so they could all say, well, this is climate change, well, it's certainly not global warming here right now. And nobody talks about geoengineering and what they could be doing and, all of that. So I'm not going to touch on that really here, but that's, a possibility that so much of this is deliberately engineered. But on the back of that Davos, what you were just talking about in the climate change, well, I got sent a copy of House of Lords document from October last year, that's in England, and the document's titled In Our Hands, Behaviour Change for Climate and Environmental Goals, and it was published on October 12th last year. So this is an official English document, government type document, and if you scroll down to this, the summary, the twin crises of climate change and nature loss demand an immediate and sustained response. The government has committed to reaching net zero by 2050 and to leave the environment in a better condition for future generations. People power is critical to meet those targets. Then it goes on all through this document telling you, in our inquiry, we looked at evidence about the ways in which people can be encouraged to change their behaviours and the action the government has been taking to do this. So the whole document is designed to change people's behaviour and the government to be the controlling factor in changing people's behaviour around climate change. So it's all behavioural science evidence and best practice show that a combination of policy levers, including regulation and fiscal incentives, must be used by government, and so on and so forth. So everything is designed to change people's behaviour, and I don't believe it's any accident. You mentioned ESG scores and things and all of the social credit scores, so on and so forth. They even talk about in that document how they shouldn't lose the opportunity to learn from COVID and how they changed people's behaviours through the lockdowns and so on. So really, everything is about changing people's behaviour and controlling people. That's what I see.
I think that's exactly right. They had an experiment, a social experiment on us for the last 2 years, and they learned that they can get people to change their behavior. And I see people that are still, you walk by them in a store or something like that, and they almost cower in fear that you're somewhere close to them. And we're 3 years into this thing, but they learned. And so you have the city of Oxford, county of Oxfordshire in the UK, has come out with a proposal for what they're calling it the 15-minute city. So what you'll be able to do is most everything you will need will be within 15 minutes of your house. Now, I don't know if that means 15 minutes driving or 15 minutes walking. I think it's walking.
It's 5 kilometers anyway.
5 kilometers. And so what you'll do though is you'll be restricted to your area except for a certain number of times that you can live or leave. And if you leave when you're not supposed to, you're going to get a fine of like $200. So there's, most people can't afford $200 fine once a month. So they're going to restrict you. And it goes back to this old World Economic Forum thing where they said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And I think you should add something to that is you'll do what we tell you and you'll be happy. We'll tell you what happy is. And then you'll go nowhere and be happy. Unless you're an elite, you'll be able to fly your private jet to a climate change meeting. It's the height of hypocrisy.
Yeah, well, it's you'll own nothing because we'll own it all.
Right, and you'll rent it from us, and we'll have a nice stream of income. And I went to a conference. It was almost exactly 3 years ago. I needed some continuing legal education. So I hadn't been to San Francisco for a while. There was a conference up in San Francisco, and I was heading out that way with my family. So they were down in the LA area, but I flew up to San Francisco. First of all, I was shocked at what had happened to the quality of life in that city. As I was booking my hotel, they actually had a I don't know how to say it, poop and drug needle map that somebody had developed so that you would know where they were finding high concentrations of human feces and needles. And so one hotel I was going to stay at, they said that there was so much of that human feces on the street that the hotel, and I had booked this hotel, they were afraid to walk on the carpet in the hotel in their bare feet because they didn't know what was in the carpet. This is downtown San Francisco. This is one of the most elite cities in the world. And that was 3 years ago, before it got really bad. So, and at that conference, though, one of the things they talked about was the Internet of Things and how the number of devices that they were talking about, and I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but they said that, that there were 20 billion devices connected to the internet in the world, but that within 10 years, they expected that to be over 1 trillion. The number would increase by 25 or 30 times. And so that's what they're doing. So everything this kind of plays into it: the climate change, technocracy, transhumanism, and the whole big aspect of social control. That seems to be a big thing. And the other thing I'm seeing too, Tony, this narrative creation. Everything is done to create a narrative. So I don't know, since we're on YouTube, if we can talk about specific countries, but there's a big country in South America or south of the equator that's had some issues with the election. And there's been a lot of protest. And the guy that won is sworn in, even though people are protesting it. But everything is being done there to create the narrative that if you oppose us on the left, you're an extremist, you're a terrorist. You saw this somewhat in the United States just last week as we were, the House of Representatives was trying to elect a speaker. The Republicans had taken control by a very slim margin. There were predictions that they were going to end up with a 50 to 100 seat plurality over the Democrats, but it turned out it's only it's like 18, maybe 17, 18, maybe not even that. It's about 8. I take it back. It's a very narrow margin. And so they're electing a new speaker since Pelosi's gone. And they had, I think, 15. They finally elected Kevin McCarthy on the 15th ballot last week. But even conservatives, Republicans were going and talking about other Republicans, saying anybody who's not voting for Kevin McCarthy is a terrorist. Dan Crenshaw, I think former Navy SEAL or Army Ranger, who everybody thinks a gung-ho conservative and everything, he was talking about other conservatives and he said they're terrorists. And so what you have is this complete narrative building that's going on. So down in the countries south of the border or south of the equator, the same thing is going on. Even though the leftist won, they're trying to completely destroy the lives of other people. And I see a lot of that. I mean, listen, I was a lawyer. I was a trial lawyer. And I know what it is to go full bore in litigation, to try to really beat the other side. But I see this happening on like every issue. So I look at Twitter. If you want to get depressed about the state of humanity, is find a Twitter thread on a controversial topic. I think we'll talk about this on our non-YouTube part. But you'll find a Twitter thread on a controversial topic and read through the comments, and half the people are sympathetic to the problem that's discussed, and the other half want to kill the others. And I mean, it's not, I don't like what you're saying, I think you're wrong. It's you should die because you have a different opinion from me. So I just think that that's a social trend. And so when I look at things with Bible prophecy in mind, one of the trends that I think is going to accelerate is this. It kind of goes to a lawlessness in the last days that we see, that everybody's not acting according to law, and all social conventions of kindness and fairness and collegiality and stuff are pretty much just gone. It's hard to have a discussion with anybody that you disagree with. And so in the major Western democracies now, this country south of the equator, I was in Israel a few weeks ago, and I saw the same thing there, that as the Netanyahu government was beginning to take power, I was finishing up their negotiations. The narrative is that if you're part of that government, you're an extremist, you're a terrorist, you're somebody who doesn't really deserve to be in society. And I met some of the people on the other side of the issue, and so I know they're not terrorists. I know they're not extreme or anything like that. They're just people who want to live a good life in a safe place and have a safe country for their family where they can raise their family. But that's not the narrative now. So you see all of this happening, and everything is designed to sort of get you to think a certain way. So another good example would be the president this morning, the president of the United States, yesterday, I guess, went to the border, and he was there. So I don't see any illegal immigrants, and I don't see any garbage laying around. Well, they'd come in. I think it was Fox this morning had done a thing where they took a picture of a street in El Paso that's just piled with garbage and debris and all sorts of things. The day on Saturday, and then they took a picture of it yesterday, and it was this pristine street. Looked like nothing no trash had ever been set on it or not. They also had another guy who they went to an area of the border along the river, and they showed, you could see the undocumented people coming across the river. They then went 100 yards down the river where where they were setting up lights and everything for a photo op for President Biden, and there was nothing down there. So they were 100 yards away from people coming across the river, but the message will be, hey, look, there's no problem here. So this is, as I'm thinking of this coming world leader and everything, and you think about, how's he going to control things? How's he going to get away with the propaganda and everything? And the answer is, he's not going to have much trouble, because everything is put in place. And then you add into it what Jordan Peterson was talking about in that video, the discussion we had a week ago on that ChatGPT, is they're creating these videos that are so real, but they're fake, that it's going to be difficult to tell. I know somebody who has a little teeny tiny media presence. I'm concerned about that, because your reputation can go away in about 25 seconds if somebody wants to destroy you. And that's concerning. So what I encourage Christians to do is, for people that have ministries, or like you and others that are just even a little bit public, is you need to really bathe us and these other people in prayer so that we'll be protected from this. But because
that's kind of scary.
I've been around for a long time, and I've seen propaganda and control and that type of thing. And right now, the funny thing is, it's being exposed with the release of the Twitter files. But the interesting thing is, the media is not covering it. They act like it's not even happening. So
because the media is controlled. And I want to end the YouTube part of this now, folks, and get into some other nitty-gritty stuff. So if you're watching it on YouTube, please flick over to Rumble or BitChute or our website and continue to watch the video.